Welcome to Raging Bullets, a DC Comics fan podcast, episode 239. Welcome to Raging Bullets. I'm Sean Wayland, drnorge on the comic forums, and I'm joined as always by my co-host Jim. I am the true entity of love, so said the sensei of the whatnot, Segulin, and the Duke of you-know.
How's it going, eh? And I give love a bad name.
I walked into that one, didn't I?
Oh, God, yeah.
This episode, we talk about a variety of books, so please take a look in the show notes. But we talk about things like Starman, Congorilla, Brightest Day. We talk about a whole bunch of books from this past week's releases. This is about a 2-hour show. And we're doing it actually, when we're recording this, we're also doing an interview tonight with the current artist on Secret Six, which will be airing next week. And then we've got also Freddie E. Williams II, who's going to be joining us as well as on that episode. So we got a lot of things going on, which is why this one's a little bit shorter than what we've been doing in the past few. Our 2-hour show's a short show.
Thank you for acknowledging that, because I was just about to say, what?
It's been, though. Our shows have all been like 3 to 4 hours lately, which, you know, we do like from 2 hours to anywhere over there, so it's kind of funny to do a shorter one. But this is a great one because we jump around variety of books. Jonah Hex, we talk about just a great variety, so take a look. Weird Worlds #1, which I didn't realize you didn't pick up, so it'd be funny to talk about that one. We are proud members of the Comics Podcast Network and the League of Comic Book Podcasts. Our sponsors for this episode, of course, are DCBService.com and InStockTrades.com. Over at DCBService.com, on this episode, we're going to talk about Doom Patrol. Issue number 20 is being solicited, written by Keith Giffen, art by Matthew Clark and Ron Randall, with a cover by Matthew Clark. All superhero teams with a high-tech headquarters, please take one step forward. Not so fast, Doom Patrol. When Cliff, Larry, and Rita are evicted from Oolong Island, they discover the rest of the superhero community is less than welcoming. On sale March 2nd with 32-page count. It's regularly $2.99, 40% off, only $1.79, and that's Doom Patrol, issue number 20. So make sure to check that one out and listen on this episode as far as why you should be reading Doom Patrol. It's one of the cool books that we're really digging right now. Speaking of Doom Patrol, over at InStockTrades.com, you can pick up the Doom Patrol graphic novel, We Who Are About to Die. This collects the first 6 issues of the series. Regularly $14.99, 38% off, only $9.29. It's a great deal for the first 6 issues if you haven't been picking that series up, and it's a terrific book. It's one that actually, over time, as I've gotten to know the characters more, has really grown on me as one of those really awesome series that I'm enjoying. So definitely check out the Doom Patrol. Thank you, DCB Service and InStockTrades.com for supporting our show. And remember, people, InStockTrades.com, orders of $50 or more give you free shipping. James, what kind of a podcast are we?
Well, Sean, we are a spoiler podcast. We go in-depth into plotline, story twists, and whatnot of the comics we're reviewing. So if we're going over something you haven't read, you may want to come back later so you can better enjoy the show.
Yeah, we talk about things like Doom Patrol 2 and Jonah Hex and just a variety of different books. The Doom Patrol was an interesting one to talk. Yeah. Well, it was funny for you to suggest it because I had it on my stack of books that I wanted to talk about, and you're like, let's talk Doom Patrol. So I can't wait to talk comics. So let's jump right into that.
Green Lantern, let you and I destroy that space junk.
Jim, there's so many books from this past week that I want to talk about. This last week we were talking about is the first week with the covers. And it was kind of funny. We had this discussion on the phone. From the source blog, I knew that these covers were coming. And it was funny. We had a conversation about it where you had a funny joke where you were like, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna joke around saying, yeah, I see how they're able to afford the $2.99 price by kind of like cutting back on what the covers was.
You mean because they're all white?
Right, because they're all white.
Right.
They're gonna, yeah, sure, it's $2.99, but you're not getting the same covers you did before. And I was like, that was the first.
And I'm like sitting here with you when you're talking on the phone. I'm like, dude. The covers are like to probably promote the $2.99 price point, but also just to celebrate all the characters. I love the styling of the covers this month.
Yeah.
Every issue. And actually, we just got this week's books, and the covers continue in this theme, and I really like them for a spotlight thing.
Yeah, I'm looking at the Birds of Prey cover there going, dang, that's really nice.
I love the cover art for Birds of Prey. That book is beautiful.
It was the real reason, when I first saw these covers, I didn't know anything about the source blog, how they're accentuating the characters. I was thinking it was just like a, kind of a thing, the beginning of the new year kind of coming out, exploding on, it was just the kind of a energizing type of deal where it's just going to, boom, hit you with the plain, white drop and then the character. So I was kind of thinking what the purpose that they were doing. I just didn't, formalize saying, oh, okay, it's an accentuation on the character and the characters in the series. So, and I tell you, visually it works with the plain white drop. You got your main character there, you got a logo, and just boom, right there. I think this looks really cool.
So you haven't seen the Flashpoint teasers? No.
No. No.
So you don't know about these ones that they released today?
I'm looking at them now on your computer, and they look cool.
Well, okay, so Flashpoint. We'll jump into the Steel issue in 1 second, but I want to talk about these Flashpoint teasers because now this event seems like Flashpoint's going to be about changing history. I don't know how, but like here's one. The spaceship never crashed. Well, what's the only spaceship in the DC universe that you would think about that never crashed? Kal-El's.
Kal-El.
He spends his days running Wayne casinos. Why would he do that?
His parents never died.
They experimented on him in a lab for years. Martian Manhunter? Maybe?
Could be Martian, yeah.
I don't know. Him. Who else would it be?
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of big players.
What if it's...
Aquaman?
Yeah, what if it's the... the Green Lantern that, died, but what if he didn't die this time?
Well, but where's his ring? I'm assuming each one's an individual one.
Where's his ring?
So where's his ring? I'm thinking for Hal.
That's Hal, yeah.
So they experimented on him in a lab for years. I guess I'm looking at Martian Manhunter. I would guess Aquaman, maybe.
Yeah, one of those two is.
Their marriage was arranged to prevent war. Hawkman, Hawkgirl? I don't know. To prevent war. Well, unless there's two different races or two different.
What about a Wonder Woman marriage?
I don't know.
Yeah, Wonder Woman marrying somebody to prevent war?
I don't know. That's a good point. A war between the Amazonians and somebody else? I don't know. So, I don't know. This Flashpoint thing...
I think this Flashpoint's about someone trying to change history and see what happens.
Yeah. Even the fastest man alive will run out of time. The Flash's world will change, and their world will change with it. So if there is anything left of the past, present, and future, they must learn the secret of Flashpoint. Well, I don't know what this is. And actually, on the cover, look, there's a different Wonder Woman costume. I don't know what's going on. So, 2011, Flashpoint. I'm excited. I'm glad actually to see something about this because I haven't really.
No, it's I was thinking it was just going to be a Flash event, but this is something bigger than just the Flash. This is going to be a overall thing.
Well, yeah. Well, that's going to be an interesting question. Is this going to affect the other? I'm assuming it's not going to affect the other titles. It's going to be kind of like what Blackest Night did, where there were still things going on in the Bat books. There were still things going on there, but this event will address those characters.
Yeah. And it's funny because we're dealing with time. Any changes that happen can be undone in a heartbeat. Mm-hmm. So you can continue on with your comic, the regular Batman comic, without changing anything in your plans. And the explanation is that it happened, then it was undone before,
or
story.
It happened, and we will see how it affects those books at the end of the series when it makes the jump.
Right.
So, I mean, if there's a lasting ramification, for example, to a Superman, to a Wonder Woman, to a Batman, to whatever, those events could then be played into. I'm a fan of that, actually, where what is going to stick after the event, what's not. It'll be interesting to see what could happen with those ramifications. If we see it, like you said, it could be completely undone. The Flash could save the day and, fix everything. I don't know. Is what we're seeing with Wonder Woman right now, though, a direct cause of Flashpoint?
Yeah.
Have we already seen elements of this laid out? Or is it Generation Lost, or does Generation Lost... I don't know. Because that's going to be a very interesting thing to see. I'm trying to figure out what's going on with Wonder Woman
and
yet.
What is what and where it is and whatnot.
I feel like Wonder Woman's going to tie into something bigger.
I was thinking Wonder Woman's tying into Generation Lost, personally.
Well, but does that lead into,
Flashpoint,
on some level, Flashpoint?
I don't know.
Or maybe, I could be completely... Because my feeling are things like Brightest Day and all that going to somehow lead into it? I don't know. Or is that going to lead back into Green Lantern? Because Flash is a Brightest Day book.
Yes, it is.
So do the roads kind of converge? I don't know. I'm very curious to see what's going to happen.
And it's been good. This is good marketing. Good way to get your... kind of curiosity where you're thinking, okay, is it this? For a while there, I was just thinking this is going to be another Flash event. No, it's not. Here's a little taste, a little teaser, if you will, as to what's going to happen kind of deal. So this is, it's one of those, this is good marketing on their part.
Let's go back to this Reign of Doomsday. The first issue of Reign of Doomsday is Steel #1. And I was excited for this because we haven't seen much of John Henry Irons.
Yeah.
We saw him in the whole New Krypton arc, and then with what happened with him with Atlas, he's been kind of on the shelf. So we haven't seen anything from him, and I'm ready. But the other thing, it was interesting with this, with Doomsday. I was kind of mixed on this with excitement, because Doomsday's one of those characters that I think fits in the category that Bane fit into for a long time.
Yeah.
And Hush, for example, fits into sometimes. They were great in their events, but then afterwards there was a very mixed reaction, mixed use of them.
Yeah.
Like Bane, I've always liked Bane's appearances. When Nightfall happened, he was brilliant in Nightfall. It's funny that Azrael was actually meant to be the main villain, because I actually always referred to Bane as, in my mind, the Nightfall main villain. And then afterwards, when they had Legacy and things like that, I ultimately wanted to see Batman, meaning Bruce Wayne, versus Bane. And we got to see those events play out. But then afterwards, when his appearances happened, there were some great ones, and then there were some okay appearances. He was one of those villains that just kind of drifted into being kind of a middle roader. Then he's been reinvigorated now in Secret Six, where he's gotten back to his core and his roots and everything that I really dig about him. So it's funny how Secret Six, in many ways, has gotten me more excited for Doomsday. And characters like that can be revitalized again. And I'm hoping this ends up being a revitalization of the character, making him more relevant and more valid, because I think he's been beaten so many times, and we've seen all these, clone versions of him and stuff like that. It's like, how am I going to see this character again as a viable, death-defying opponent? And this one, we've seen him evolve.
Yeah, and it still makes... I do wonder if this is the Doomsday, or if this is a government manufacturing, a Luthor Corp manufacturing, or is this the real Doomsday that has, since evolved from his previous beatdown that he's received? Because we know that's what Doomsday does. He comes back stronger the next time. And we're seeing definite changes in the character, a little bit of evolution, in who he is, how he does his stuff, a lot more strategy, increased powers, which I thought was really cool touch. But then again, I do have that question in the back of my head. Is this Doomsday, or is this another clone? And, on one hand, I'm definitely leaning that this is the real Doomsday, kind of coming back and announcing his presence with authority. So I'm looking forward to seeing that play out. But, again, I really liked, one of the comments you made about, seeing John come back.
Yeah.
I'm glad this wasn't just about Doomsday.
No.
For me, the cool part of reading that whole Death of Superman story was we didn't know anything about this monster. And we saw him take down the Justice League with one arm. We saw him just throwing down and just fighting, Superman to, to the death. And it was just this cool thing because I didn't know anything about this monster. He just appeared out of nowhere for me. And the same kind of deal's going on here. There, we know who Doomsday is, but we're still these big mysteries going on, and we're still getting these great characterizations of these heroes fighting Doomsday and losing to Doomsday.
What worked for me in this one was it was kind of a flashback to seeing some of what was happening in the Death of Superman from John Henry Irons' perspective, like seeing how he first discovered Superman was dead, leading kind of more of a director's cut of his motivations to becoming Steel. And then seeing his own insecurities, understandable insecurities of facing this monster the first time and what happened there, and now facing him again and realizing the heroes are tied up. There's nobody there. He is the man, and he's got to do something, in spite of the fact that this is an overwhelming threat. And I loved his determination. To me, it was the accessibility of his human side, his vulnerability, and the fact that he just kept coming, just kept getting up. No matter what Doomsday threw at him, he kept finding a way to stand up again. And that added to me more to the villain, was because I was rallying behind the hero. So I echo your comments exactly. Seeing so much focus on John here was really something that rallied to me. I've got to ask the question now, and I know I'm jumping ahead of this. He can't be dead, right?
Oh God, no. He got a nice beat down, and he's unconscious, and he's hurting pretty bad. But there's no way John Henry's dead.
Or even if he is dead, he's coming back.
Yeah,
it's Doomsday carried him away for a purpose, right? Because that wasn't a throwaway. Otherwise, the body would have just been left there.
Right, and as I said, it's Doomsday now has more of a plan. I think this is kind of I don't know if it's a strategy he came up with or a strategy he was told to do, or and it's again, it's that whole mystery behind what he's doing. But I love like the one scene where he actually Doomsday says Steel's name. He's like, "Wait, is that my imagination? Did you just say my name? Does he know who I am?" Kind of deal. And I thought that was just a kind of a cool just realization, and just as it's going on. But when we got the previous stuff with the all the other new Supermen, Steel was the guy I really rallied behind, because he is that everyday, he's a normal person wearing the armor. And I still remember just the one issue where he was dealing with the Eradicator, and and he was sitting there looking at you, think you're Superman. He goes, "No, I wear this symbol to honor the man who saved my life." And I love the fact that he never called himself Superman. He called himself the Man of Steel. He called himself Steel. And it was always just to honor Superman, to honor the fallen hero. And I thought that for me was always just this great, kind of deal. I'm like, I would do something like that. I could, if I had the intelligence and the resources and all that.
During Reign of the Superman, did you think that each one of the four were somehow 4 parts of the real Superman? I kind of felt because I felt like he was the heart and conscience and soul, because he really seemed to have the ethics of Superman, if that made sense. So I kept, which was a great mystery. I really loved. I didn't see that the real Superman was going to come back and be a separate person. Yeah. I figured on some level, either the Cyborg or Eradicator or something, the reason why they were acting so bizarre was because Steel had some part of him, they had some part. It was all because of their connection to Superman. It would turn out that the 4 of them together would on some level make up Superman.
Yeah, I completely echo. I was thinking that somehow he had the essence and the spirit of Superman, the heart of Superman kind of deal. Yeah, I was thinking that somehow someone would merge them together and you would get Superman. Or I didn't know how it was going to play out, but I thought it was kind of a cool that each one of those different characters had a different piece of what was Clark.
For me, him coming back and him being separate, I'm like, well, that's a pretty cool swerve, because I didn't see that coming. Mullet and all.
Hey, business in front, party in the back.
It is funny with Doomsday, though. I guess, are you thinking somebody's pulling his strings? Because I'm thinking that this is showing us that Doomsday is a formidable villain in his own right. This is an evolution of him where we get to see him being formidable. I wasn't reading it as somebody pulling his strings, because you mentioned that a few times. I'm not saying you're wrong, because I'm speculating too. So, but I guess I'm looking at it as, at least to me, it feels like he's independent. What are you thinking on that?
I'm on both camps.
Okay.
I'm honestly split right down the middle. At times, I do think this is somebody else pulling the strings, or somebody else unleashed Doomsday and said, "This is your mission, do it," kind of deal, or someone not controlling him but kind of pushing him in a direction. Then on the other hand, I'm thinking, no, this is an evolution of Doomsday where it's not just about physical destruction. He's got a game plan. He's got a thought process. He's got, his objective. He's going to capture all of the other Supermen and use them as bait to lure in Clark. Because we see Doomsday in this fight multiple times target or put civilian lives in danger, knowing that John's going to save the innocents and going to expose himself to attack. So I'm thinking he's going to do the exact same thing to Superman, where all of these other Supermen that were around before are going to be captured, and Clark's going to be in the middle of a fight with Doomsday, having to help the other people and having to do something else. And it's again, it's showing a great strategy, because if you don't have a problem with killing innocent people, that's a hero's biggest weakness, is the fact that must protect the innocent. And I'd love just hearing throughout this, seeing that, because that just shows a level of evil and a level of thought process that Doomsday have. You take this massive powerhouse, you give him this intelligence, you give him, cunning and deception, and you turn him into a force that is really, really dangerous. Makes you wonder, how can Superman stop him?
It is interesting on this whole thing, seeing that, and you're right, how could Superman stop him? But not even just that. I like seeing Natasha and seeing her viewpoint of the whole thing as well, because she was almost adding to me this sense that John might have died. Like, we might have actually seen him fall on the battlefield.
Yeah.
Because we see her, and I loved her being brought back in because we got to see her in Infinity Inc. We got to see her in, various stories leading up to that. And I really grew to like her character and how she evolved over time. To see her in this role where she's almost trying to keep John safe.
Yeah.
And just say, whoa, this is something where you need to call in, use as your favorite thing. But he has no backup to call at this point.
Yeah. Well, I was actually hoping she would armor up. Because we've seen her have her own armor that she forgo when she got her powers. I was hoping that one point in time we would see her armor up and her kind of throw down and whatnot.
I wonder if we may still see that.
Yeah, because I did like her in armor, and some of the stuff when they showed her just when she was first building her own armor, and John made her actually, hey, I'm not going to build your armor. You got to build it. You got to know what it can do. You got to know what happens if this little piece breaks, if that piece breaks, how in the field you can fix this kind of stuff. I thought that was a cool, just the building of a hero. And then she went the whole Infinity Inc. thing with Luthor, and then we had that whole battle going back and forth between John and Luthor, and just that whole story arc that was actually a pretty cool story, and I enjoyed it because we got some good John moments out of it, and we had some good Natasha moments as well. So it's seeing her throughout this, seeing her on the sidelines, kind of helping helping with the, again, saving the civilians, the innocent lives, because she is a hero. She, innocent people first. But I like seeing her involved. I'm hoping this isn't the end of their story arc. I've said multiple times that I would pick up a Steel comic in a heartbeat. When there was some rumors.
Did you read his solo series before?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would pick this thing up in a heartbeat. Currently, when he started building that Steel Works, I was like, hey, this could be a neat story, and so I don't know.
This Steel, I would definitely follow again, especially the way it was written in this issue. I mean, this creative team nailed this character.
Yeah.
I wonder if Doomsday is somehow seeking out these former, the former Supermen. Wait, hold on. For the purpose of, though, taking their powers, like somehow learning from them? Because, with Steel, it seems like he specifically was seeking out Steel, trying to get Steel's attention. And then from the fight from Steel, and this is again another speculation of mine. During the fight, though, he seemed to, when he was fighting him, evolve into this armor.
Yeah,
during the fight.
Yeah.
Will we see similar? This is just again speculation. Will we see similar things happen when he fights other members of the Superman family, like the Eradicator? Because the Outsiders is next. So will he draw things? Because we know the Outsiders, the Eradicator from Outsiders, his power source is different than Superman's. So what will Doomsday take from him if he does? If I'm wrong on that, is this part of his evolution during these fights? And will we see it along the way with Connor? We know Connor's fights a little bit differently than Superman because of the cloning. So he's got that tactile telekinesis. Will we see Doomsday taking on these traits, or is it going to be something exclusive to Steel, like he was able to armor up? I don't know, but that was something I was wondering reading this.
I love that statement. I was like, holy crud, yeah, maybe. Because it wasn't until that's when he formed his own Steel, what was bone turned into Steel. So what if, you think, some of the power sets that Eradicator has, I'm thinking, if anything, the laser vision type of, because, right now, Doomsday doesn't have any distance weaponry. It's all pummeling up front, up close, beat someone down. Well, what if maybe now he's going to learn how to be able to shoot some I-beams out or some type of energy type of weapon, energy discharge.
Is he able to fly because he was fighting Steel? And Steel can. Because Steel said, since when can he fly? And I did take that he was really flying.
Oh, yeah.
Or is that from some other source? I don't know. I'm very curious to see what happens here. I'm very interested. And if I'm completely dead wrong on that, I don't care. But it's something that I like. I like that this book has gotten me interested in speculating. I will be very disappointed if John Henry Irons is dead out of this.
Yeah,
I will say that.
Can't be.
I don't mind if he died and they find a way to bring him back, per se. And maybe on some level the fact that Doomsday pulled something from him is the way to bring him back at the end of this. But I don't know. I'm very curious to see where this is going to go.
Yeah, there's no way he's dead. I'd be upset if we lost him, especially if death is dead. If dead is dead, to lose him now, I'd be like, no, come on, we can't.
Jim, you mentioned Doom Patrol, which actually I was kind of shocked. I'm like, Jim saying Doom Patrol? It's Doom Patrol number 18, and this has been one of those books. My history with Doom Patrol, I haven't had a super long history with Doom Patrol. I read the John Byrne run. I've read portions of the Morrison run. I've read broken issues of previous runs, but I haven't really had a long history other than in recent years. And this is a book that it's one of those I would never drop in a million years. The more issues that I read, the more intrigued that I am about it. I was thrilled to hear you say, because I'm like, oh, this is a cool book. And I thought this arc in particular was a cool one.
It's funny because, in the 18 issues that we've had of Doom Patrol so far, I have almost dropped this thing probably about 10 times. Mm-hmm. There's I'm like, oh, I'm going to drop it. I'm not, and then one little thing will happen. It'll make me say, hey, that's kind of interesting. Hey, I'll keep it for another issue. Let's see how, and especially this last story arc where, the story arc where the Chief gets superpowers, then he's gone. Now it's a Doom Patrol without Chief. I was like, hey, that's kind of interesting. Then we're going through this whole thing with the security guard for the president of Oolong Island, and I'm like, and it was this issue right here. When I got done reading this issue, I realized something. I go, wait a minute, I'm a Doom Patrol fan. And I'm like, these little sneaky guys got me into this comic without me even realizing it. This is, a fun read, and this is, it's a different type of superhero. Part of my thing, one of the big issues I did have was I really hated the Chief. I really hated that guy. Mm-hmm. So I was kind of happy that he's gone. And I'm like, hey, let's see what happens with the team now.
Well, to me, it's kind of like what happened with All Stars. Except this handled it a different way. Like in All Stars, you had Magog there in the beginning, who was really unlikable in the sense that his relationships with the other members of the JSA, it was something that you felt in the book, and I liked that. I liked that exploration of that. When he was gone, to me, it made the team stronger, and you got to see that they pulled it all together, and we got to see old members come back in and all that. In Doom Patrol, it's been interesting because you saw the Chief and how he was messing with people, and I think it means even more in Doom Patrol because he's had a long history of doing this. And this is something where we've got to see throughout these issues kind of a history of that manipulation and the effects that it's had on these characters long term. And really how he doesn't care, what he's done for Elasti-Woman.
Yeah.
And how he allowed that stuff to go on with her relationship with her ex-husband, kind of messing with her head. And really, he was aware of all this stuff.
In a way, he probably encouraged it because
we saw him in this, and encouraged Dayton to basically say, you have to do this right now. And her violation all this time afterwards was something, and then the stuff with Cliff and then with Larry. And
Larry, I'm getting his sense of humor more, and I'm really enjoying it.
I am too.
It's the little subtle stuff, like on the refrigerator, the shopping list, 57 boxes of ace bandages and pelican repellent. And a little question mark next to it, is there such a thing as pelican repellent?
And that's one of the things that I really like about this book is that there's humor in it, but then it's like the villains in this one with their immortality. There's a horror going on here. Their son is very twisted.
Yeah.
And he has these depraved desires, and they almost feel like they're entitled to these desires. And the wife's all about the social nature of, and to the point where all she cares about, even at the expense of others, is these intense social events. And the husband really kind of tries to keep this glue together in spite of their quirks.
Yeah.
And yet he's got his own twisted issues as well with torture. He loves torture. And it's what he wants to do to Veronica Cale, and he's got this history of doing this with... so I love that we've got from Oolong Island, the leader of Oolong Island, nationalizing the Doom Patrol to kind of use them as her own...
security force.
Yeah.
And it's... one of the things, you think about it, these are immortals. They've lived very long lives, and after a time, I love some of the best, vampire stories, or in Highlander, where you get these characters that have been around so long that they no longer have our moral, fiber, our moral judgment kind of deal. They look at life differently because they've been around for thousands of years. To them... this is a nothing. This, I just killed 24 people. So what? Kind of deal. And it was because this is their entertainment. This is what they do for fun. You're gonna die anyways. It's not like, you're immortal. So I'm just killing you now and saving you, the pain 50 years from now.
Well, and they also come from, there's a lot of different options on how this can work. Sometimes they come from an era where they're trying to still live with the laws and rules from that era, or lack of laws and rules from that era. Other times it's the fact that they think that they're just superior to everybody else, and they deserve it because of that. There's lots of different options as far as the way Immortals work, and I loved that there was this kind of exploration of that, because I'm a big fan of out-of-time characters, characters that have lived way too long. This is a great example of a book that it's grown on me the way that the Legion has grown on me, where I never understood Doom Patrol before, but now I'm very intrigued to read more of the history due to my increasing enjoyment of this book. And I'm hoping, this is one that I'm hoping with the $2.99 price point now,
saves it and really, beefs it up and gets people interested in it, because, it's like Cliff. I love the one scene because, he's like, I'm not too fond of smacking women around, and she's like, oh, how gallant. And she attacks him. He goes, okay, I tried to be nice. Let's dance.
I love that his eyes hanging out of his socket, too, because he's a robot man,
Yeah.
So his eyes hanging out of his socket because of how much she's beat on him. But he's got his brain, for those of you that aren't reading Doom Patrol, it's his brain in there. So it's the same Cliff, but his brain has been put into a robot body. So he's lived for years and years and years in a robot body because of that. And that's one of the things that I love about this book. Each one of them has a horrifying quirk. Like Elastic Girl is really elastic in the sense that her body is held together.
It's like a kind of gelatinous type of ooze type of thing, but it's this, she doesn't have a solid body, really. It's just held together by, her willpower kind of deal?
Yeah. But I feel like she should be like in a Bill Cosby commercial with him going,
Jello pudding.
Jello brand superheroes.
No, she's the shapeshifter from DS9, Odo.
Oh, yeah.
Just lying around in this puddle of, goo.
Keep her in a bucket. But then Negative Man has the same exact problem. Where he really has this non-corporal form that he goes into, but if he stays away from his body too long, he could die.
He dies, yeah. And I like seeing more just the usage of how he's like able to do quick jump out. Like a couple of the fight scenes he's done, he's did a quick jump out, zap somebody, and then he's back in his body as his body's falling, and he catches it before it completely falls. Or the one scene where he kind of like separated from his hand and shocked the door. So I like to see that there is some variations, that it's not just him running out and his body's laying flat. He's able to, kind of mix things up a bit. And that's something else that I didn't know he could do before. I don't know if it was something he could do before, if this is just something they're kind of tweaking and changing with him. But it's, again, he's a character that when they did that one little spotlight on him, a couple, about 6 issues back or something like that. That was one of the things that kept me reading the series, was that spotlight on him. Mm-hmm. So he's definitely a character that I'm very interested in. Just wanting to know a little bit more about the quirks that he is. And I do like, a little bit of comedy in comic books, and this is a good example of some funny moments in the middle of the fight sequence, but not slapstick that it takes away from what we're actually reading. It's a solid fight scene. It's a solid team dynamic. It's a little dysfunctional, but it is still that solid team dynamic that makes a good team book. But they are, strong individuals, and I'm really into that. And then like Bumblebee as well, another character that she's I know very little about her because she was a Titan, right, a long time ago.
Might have been. I don't know.
I thought she was the Teen Titan, but I'm not even sure about that. To be honest with you,
that seems to be kind of right to me.
So this is again another character that I want to know more about her and what's her deal, what's everything going on with her kind of stuff. And it's, she's another now being a regular on the Doom Patrol. So this is I think for me, a strength of it, that I want to know who these people are.
Good call. She was actually a Titan way back in Teen Titans number 45. There was her first appearance, December 1976. So she was DC's first black female superhero.
Oh, cool.
I did not know that. So that was a good call for you. Yay, Sensei.
Yeah. I think it was funny as I said that and you started looking it up. I was like, I'm remembering from Teen Titans, the cartoon, and she was probably on that show. Right. That's where I remember her as a Titan, because I didn't read from 1976.
No, but still, it's Karen Beecher is the name of the character in her alter ego. I actually liked that in the beginning when on the fridge too, it was cut air holes for purse. Karen in the purse. Well, and it's funny because Elastic Woman needs to look into like magazines like Vogue and stuff like that. So when she's putting her form back together, that helps her style choices.
Yeah.
So that was interesting in the beginning. I love that, like, each issue there's a little bit of a primer somewhere in the book from comments or whatever about the characters, their MO, their weaknesses, their strengths, and the weaknesses a lot of times are psychological.
Yeah, big time with these guys, and it's they're dysfunctional. They look at themselves kind of as freaks, and to be honest, they're in a way they're no more freakier than other superheroes
or any of us.
Yeah,
no, actually, because we've all got personality quirks and things like that's one of the things that I'm really digging about the book, because at first I was like, oh, what a bunch of freaks, and I'm kind of like, I kind of get them. I think I could be on this team. And I don't need powers. I mean, I just hang with them, and they a moron man or something. There he is. He's over there. His powers to be incredibly stupid. But I mean, I loved that about the team. There's something the more I'm hanging with them, I really feel like I'm hanging with them in each issue. And I agree with you. When this series first kicked off, I think I was having more fun with the Metal Men in the back, but I was enjoying Doom Patrol, but the Metal Men was fun and accessible and happy. And then all of a sudden, as the series came on, you're right, there was more spotlights on the characters, and we got to know them more, and I'm like, oh, wait a minute, these characters out of nowhere just really grew on me. And it's a fun book because of that, so I'm glad we had a chance to talk about it. Is there anything else you want to say about Doom Patrol?
I'm just really glad when the creepy son just got, they laid the smackdown on him.
Oh, yeah.
It's the creepy son is just a great description of this little snot, and I love just seeing them just beat him down. He's like, this isn't how it's supposed to happen. You're not supposed to fight back. Bam! Face first into the ground.
Well, and it was funny when I liked actually the different dialogues from the journal, or letters, I should say, from the dad afterwards, where you see him back all proper and everything, kind of evaluating the whole situation and how things went wrong, knowing that these characters are going to pop up again.
Well, especially because on that final page where he's talking about how the president, I can't think of her name now, doesn't know what they did to her while she was out. President Kale doesn't know what they did to her while she was out, because they did something to her before she was awakened, before she recovered. And I'm kind of curious to see what that was. Plus, there's this whole mention of
his fingers. His fingers are chopped off at the end. Guess where they probably are?
Wait, inside her?
Either that or the blood.
Well, I was thinking he was using the blood. That's from his doing, so he can write on the wall in blood.
Oh, from the I see.
That's how I took that.
Yeah, good point.
Because I'm assuming he's going to be able to grow it back, or it'll.
Yeah, because we do see him writing with the fingers at the end. You're right. I don't know. I like that he was admiring her will and things like that. Like, his goal was really to kind of break her down. I don't know. I like the character of Kale, though, a great deal.
Oh, yeah, definitely a character that's, again, another character in the series. I'm like, okay, they've got room to wiggle with her, to do something with her, and to kind of grow and change and, whatnot. So definitely, Doom Patrol is a fun read, and really looking forward to this one in the next coming year.
I want to, not only the writing of Keith Giffen on this, but Matthew Clark and the whole art team, actually.
Yeah, the art team.
Matthew Clark, the reason why he's standing out for me, I remember Matthew Clark from Outsiders, back when Winnick was writing it, and how much I really enjoyed what he was doing there. I really like him on this book. I think it's a great example of where artwork works, because there's the right mix of creepy with the superhero action, but this book is one of those, it's like a dark horror kind of. It's definitely the weird end of the DC universe, and there's room for that. It makes the DC universe just a little dirty, and we like that. I didn't know you didn't pick this one up. We'll talk about this one next. Weird Worlds. It's an anthology miniseries, and there's 3 different stories in it. The first one kicks off with Lobo.
Yeah.
Looking like he's dead. And it's this whole, and I won't go these are all the beginning of these stories, so I'll go a little bit into them. What happens is this whole story is told by a bounty hunter in a space bar who has just killed Lobo. And he's exaggerating the story.
Yeah.
Making it seem like he did all these things when everything happened circumstantially. The bar owner pulled out a gun, and Lobo's chain happened to wrap around the gun to pull it away from the bar owner so he didn't get, shot or anything. It lands in the guy's hands where his knife is.
Yeah.
And it was an accidental thing where basically Lobo shot himself. So, well, in the meantime, while this guy's telling the story, guess what's happening behind him?
Lobo's healing.
Yes. So then it leads into, where you would expect it to go. But this is the first part of the story. And the real story is, while this is all going on, one of the onlookers is the bounty that the two of them are both after. And the cliffhanger involves the bounty. And I'll leave it at that, but, it's kind of a cool little introductory story. I'm a fan of anthologies. This leads to this next story about the Garbage Man. And it's written by, story and pencils by Aaron Lopresti. Each one of these is done by different creative teams. So we've got Aaron Lopresti doing this Garbage Man one. And I have no idea if there's a history with Garbage Man or anything. It's first I've heard of this character who seems to be comprised of garbage. Well, this person wakes up and, like us, and this is what makes this character accessible, no clue what's going on.
Oh, okay.
Like, why am I here? What's happened there? So he's asking all the questions we are. And as his memory's gradually coming back, we're learning along with him what actually happened to him. But we're actually also seeing what can happen to him. Like, he gets hit by a car and run over, and you see him start healing.
Yeah.
And stuff like what's happening here? But it turns out he was part of an experiment. He happened to see too much. And they were doing these experiments on people, and because he was in the wrong place at the wrong time, he gets injected. And the idea was that he was supposed to die from this anyway. But the doctor's watching what was going to happen here. Well, obviously the idea was for the doctor to conduct this experiment and then obviously kill this guy. So he sets the room, not only the room and two of the scientists who happen to be stuck in there, because if two scientists are in there, it happens to look like an accident. Yeah. So, the whole thing is set aflame with a super explosive. Well, here's the problem. With what was done to Garbage Man, he can heal from that.
Oh, cool.
He goes into the sewer, with everything else that's flushed out, and reforms in the sewer. So this is how this has all happened. Wrong place at the wrong time. So now it's not only is this scientist a part of this, but, what's the company got to do with it and all that. So it's going to be Garbage Man's, obviously, I'm guessing, his quest to find out what happened to him. So it's a nice little horror anthology that's going on here. Then we've got it's Kevin Maguire's story and art, Tanga. And it's this guy, I have no idea who Tanga is as well. She's drifting through the universe, comes and encounters this race, and starts talking to them. And it seems like Tanga is one of these characters that, is she a good guy? Is she a bad guy? Is she get into a little bit of trouble along the way? Who knows? But encounters this race and starts having communications. The ship starts to zap her. Partway,
that's rude.
Well, as would happen, though, with encounters with races. So it's a really fun series where you see three different stories going on. I'm a fan of anthologies because one of the great things about anthology is Lobo's story, I think, was the perfect one to kick off with in the beginning, because it's Kevin Van Hook on the writing, Jerry Ordway on art, Pete Pantazis on colors. The cool thing about the Lobo story is that's your main draw piece. Everyone knows Lobo, and you get your typical classic Lobo story. The other two stories are newer to me. I'm getting to know these characters along the way, developing an attachment. I believe this is a miniseries. It isn't identified with that on the cover, but I thought it was a 6-issue miniseries is what we're dealing with here. I'm hoping it does well, because I was a big fan of the Space miniseries when they came out. And this being at this is at a $3.99 price point, I should say, but I'm guessing because it's a miniseries and an anthology, and we've got these big stories in it. If you're a fan of anthologies, please consider, or like the concept of anthologies, please consider picking up the first issue and seeing if it's for you. The reason why I'm saying that is I like these type of things to develop some sales numbers to show DC that fans like anthologies. Because a lot of times what ends up happening is throughout comics, when companies try these anthologies, they don't do as well. And that's why we see a limited amount of them. I think anthologies are a great way to introduce a variety of characters, for us to see characters that maybe can't launch into their own titles, but also can get a little bit experimental. And one of the comments in our forums, or I should say on the Facebook page, about the Red Lantern book was some people were hoping for an anthology. One of the reasons why that wasn't a Lantern anthology, I'm assuming, is because of that. They just don't sell as well. Whereas a single title about Red Lanterns where you could follow that would. So I don't know. I'm very intrigued by this book so far. It's something. What made you decide not to grab it? Or was it an oversight, or was it just something you were just kind of like looking at your budget? You were like,
I was looking at the budget, and I was like, you know what? I'm adding a lot of, I added how many Bat titles, added Green Lantern title, and just adding a bunch of stuff. I looked at it; it looked interesting, and I was like, this probably. I figured you were going to get it, and you would read it, and you would talk about it, and that would decide. But I actually looked at it as a trade. I was like, I'm going to wait because the trade's going to come out, and I'll pick it up and trade just because. Yeah, Lobo's a cool character, but he's not like. Yeah, I'm not like, I gotta read every Lobo story. I'm like, I take him. It's a hit and miss for me type of character. There's times when I enjoy it. I think I kind of chuckle, like where you're talking about how he's healing as the guy's talking. I can just imagine this guy's boasting, I killed Lobo, and right behind him, Lobo is slowly healing, and eventually Lobo's going to get better.
And that was the great thing about the story, because you're listening to this guy. The longer that he's boasting, something's going on behind him.
Yeah.
And what I mean, I gave you a very short piece. What's really well drawn out, I was like, whoa, this is really fun, because you want to see him get his butt kicked afterwards. And it doesn't just end, because that was the first part. The great part about the Lobo story is there's a resolution to that, but then the actual thing that caused them to fight to begin with is the cliffhanger.
Yeah.
So you're getting to see, like, okay, they have a target that they were after, and that target is there. And you get to see that. So, I mean, there's a nice little build along the way as to who the target was and what that all means. So there's like a story within the story that you end up getting a, wow, okay, that's kind of cool at the end. But it was a great build and introduction, and you needed that to be the opening story. The opening story in an anthology always needs to be your hardest-hitting one, because you can then play with the other two in the back of getting introduced, like a Garbage Man character. I don't know who Garbage Man is, but it was creepy. I really liked the artwork. It's a good story by Aaron Lopresti. I'm a fan of his art from Wonder Woman. So, Aaron Lopresti, getting a chance to see some of his visuals, I'm on board for that. The Garbage Man thing was really cool, though, because the way that he was introduced, we didn't see the experiment first and then see this happen to him. It was, we got to ride along with him. And I do, for people who haven't read it yet, I'm going through that very quickly. It's fun to play that out with him along the way. So consider picking that up to take it, just go on the journey with him, because it's very cool to see that. The Tango one was the one, it was perfect to be at the end, because just kind of a little bit of an introduction to her, kind of understanding that probably universally when she shows up in places, she gets annoying fast, but yet there's something fun and mischievous about her too, so I don't want to make it seem like I wasn't annoyed with her. What I meant was, like, if she were to show up with Adam Strange and characters like that, they'd be like, oh no, not her
again.
But yet, as fans, we're kind of looking at, she's going to make this kind of funny and fun and stuff like that. She's powerful, she's got some powers. Trying to find her own sense of home, her own place in the universe, which I think we're all in those positions where at some point in time we feel like disenfranchised or we're not a part of something. So she's got that kind of role going on where you kind of feel yourself like wondering, why is she not where she should be? And
what's the full story? Yeah.
So it's kind of fun.
Okay, cool.
Really good introductions to these characters. So it was a fun series so far. Like, I'm definitely, after reading the first issue, this has jumped up the stack when the second issue comes out, in the sense that I'm going to be a lot more intrigued to read it now, because of the fact that I got to read the first issue. There's enough that I care about. The Lobo story is definitely my main draw at first, and it's funny, the order that they go in was my interest at first. The Kevin Maguire art, though, ooh, I'm a huge fan of Kevin Maguire for the JLI days, but then, also, and he actually did the artwork on that Metal Men backup.
Okay, yeah, okay.
So I know but he, JLI, I followed him. He did something for Valiant when they were bought out by Acclaim. He did his own book for them. I think it was Trinity Angels. And forgive me, I'm just kind of rattling this off the top of my head, which I really enjoyed. I tend to follow him.
Okay, cool.
Around, and he has some really cool artwork and great storytelling skills, so I'm looking forward to that as well. So, cool book. Is that something you think you're going to continue to wait for in the trade?
I don't know. It's funny hearing how excited you are and hearing what you're describing, and I'm like, because part of me really wants to see, what Lobo does to that guy. So part of me, I may go to my local shop and pick this up.
Do you want to borrow it?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, you can borrow it and kind of take a look at it and give me your thoughts and see if I'd be curious to see if you decide to pick it up based on reading it. So, okay, Azrael number 16, and I was really anticipating this because we saw him crucify himself last issue, or have his friend help with the crucifixion. It was, it was a joint effort, and well, what does this mean for him now? And we see that he's dead. Ish. But there's a way out for him. And, how much of this do you think is really happening? Do you think this is really happening to him?
I don't know. It's a tough call because, he could be in purgatory. He could be somewhere in between. We know that the Lazarus pit is involved with, the soaking. The armor was in the Lazarus pit. That's why, they put it back on him. So that's maybe bringing him back. Maybe we're seeing exactly what happens when you go in the pit. Because you think
this isn't the pit, this is the suit of sorrows, though. Because these souls tormenting him are because of the suit. And I agree with you, there's a connection to the Lazarus pit, because that's the suit of sorrows is made up of that, which is why Bruce is so convinced that he's going to come back throughout it as well. Because Bruce knows.
Yeah, Bruce definitely knows he's coming.
Oh, because of his connection with the suit as well. Which I love that aspect of it, that Bruce was having a very different reaction to all this than Dick Grayson. That's one of the things that David Hine nailed on this, was the relationship between Bruce Wayne and Dick Grayson, showing us the differences between the two Batmen. I really love that aspect of it.
Yeah, and I like seeing that Bruce is, in a way, embracing the supernatural nature of the suit, of the pit kind of deal. And even Grayson's like, hey, I thought you said there's only science. There's not this hocus pocus stuff. What's going on here? Kind of noticing that Bruce is looking at it a little different.
But here's Bruce's response. Science is any knowledge-based system that can be used to predict an outcome. This is science. We just don't know all the parameters yet. So, he's basically saying that you can predict the outcome from this. And I'm predicting the outcome that dude's coming back based on my own experience. And what's happening to him in the Suit of Sorrows is something that I know because of my connection with it. So there's a science here. It is a supernatural, paranormal science, whatever, but it is something scientifically based that Bruce can follow. So Bruce is actually justifying saying, it falls into my system.
Yeah.
I'm a little more open. But you're right, though. This is a Batman that I agree is a little bit more open-minded than he would have been in the past. Or I should say, outwardly open-minded. I think Bruce would have felt the same way about this in the past. He wouldn't have vocalized it as much as he is to Dick Grayson. He would have kept his own counsel.
Right.
Whereas now I think he's comfortable voicing that in a way that's kind of cool. I love this whole bit where Ra's al Ghul was kind of motioning for the detective, hey, come and join us, come hang out here and all that stuff. And Bruce is like, better stay back here. This is like a private invite. And all that. Do you think he was keeping him back there as as backup? Or do you think he was keeping him back there because the invite was clearly extended to him?
I took it immediately that it was just because it was extended to him.
I agree.
And he knew that, he's got the connection with the suit. He's got, the deeper connection with Ra's. It's something, he knew that with this circumstance, he was safe. He knew that if Dick went in there, there'd be a chance for a fight, there'd be a chance for something else. This is the best way to gather the intelligence, to gather the information they needed. This wasn't about taking them down. This was about figuring out what is going on here. What's the connection? Do I have an ally? Do I have an enemy? What, who and what is Azrael now? This was purely an intelligence gathering type of scenario, and at those times, you gotta pick your best way to get the information. Best way, most logical way would be him going solo.
Now, Dick Grayson here. We see what happened with the Suit of Sorrow, the souls, and when the sword went through Dick Grayson, he was going to die. Azrael stopped himself. What does that mean for Dick Grayson? The swords aren't supposed to be able to harm someone who's truly righteous. What does that mean for Dick Grayson? What do you think that means? How did you take that? Did you take it as we don't understand the nature of the swords yet? We don't understand the nature of Dick Grayson? Or is it that Dick Grayson has the same issues that perhaps Azrael does, where there's two paths for him?
I'm taking it that there's a darkness in everybody.
Okay.
There's no 100% pure soul, pure nature.
But why shouldn't the swords kill everybody then?
Well, I think what it is, it's you look at it's kind of like a percentage type of deal. Where if he had stabbed like Mother Teresa, there would have been no pain whatsoever. Because, there is a little bit of darkness in her, but there's just so much light. There's so much goodness. There's so much, purity of soul that there's nothing for the sword to latch on. Dick's got a little bit of shade to him. He's got a little bit of gray area. You think about any of the Bat type of characters, and they do deal with fear as a weapon. They do deal with, violent situations. Would
this happen to Bruce, though?
Well, I don't know. Because Bruce was stabbed with the blue sword, not the red sword. And I think that's definitely a different type of judgment thing. Where if you're using the red sword, I think it latches more onto the darkness. And who knows with the new Bruce coming back, how he would deal with this, how it would recognize and look at him.
You mean because the blue sword went through him this time and we're kind of looking at it that way?
Yeah.
I don't know. That's very, very interesting.
Yeah, I think there's still going to be more mysteries, that have to be unveiled about the swords, about the armor, about just the nature of their power base. I think if if he had stabbed Dick with the blue sword, I bet you it wouldn't have hurt at all. I think it's because it's the red is kind of like that. It seems to me red's the darker side, so it latches onto that evil, latches onto the hatred kind of deal.
Well, and adding to the duality of what you're talking about, if you take a look at when Bruce was stuck with the swords, he sees the two futures.
Yeah.
And in the righteous future, he's holding the blue sword, and in the evil future, he's holding the red sword. So
yeah.
Obviously, we don't know everything yet. That's interesting that you point out the different swords that they were stabbed with. So I wonder what would have happened. I liked seeing that as Bruce was walking away, you still see the burning flame around the bat symbol there. And this idea that he's not going to be joining us, but he will be an ally.
Yeah.
So just having faith that Michael Lane can handle what's coming down his path.
And I kind of was liked and curious, and it was an unknown thing because Bruce was covering over the fact that the blue flame was still burning when he first initially shows up. When he's first initially with Dick, he is concealing his symbol. He's got his cape, tugged around it. So is he keeping something from Dick Grayson? Is it just something that he's not willing to talk about and share kind of deal? Or what's the deal there? That was something I was kind of curious about. Because what if the evil flaming vision that Bruce sees, that's Dick Grayson in that cape and cowl?
Because of the bat outfit.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So
I guess I kind of took it to that being Michael Lane because he was one of the Batmen. Remember, he was one of the three?
Right.
So I guess I was assuming that. That's interesting as a variation choice. And I took that as kind of a take on, that...
Oh, definitely. And if he is that, could that possibly be Bruce in the Azrael costume with the blue sword?
But
I don't know. See, that's I
took that as both being two versions of Michael Lane.
Yeah, and you know what? I initially thought that as well. And if that's the case, then I got this is one of those arguments that I wouldn't passionately fight against.
No.
But these are thoughts that pop in my head, and the main reason that popped in my head was because to me it looked like Bruce was concealing his burning chest from Dick Grayson.
I agree with that because he probably wouldn't want to address what actually happened there.
Yeah.
Because it goes back to the whole science thing and the discomfort that Dick Grayson was talking about early on, how that's not Bruce's cup of tea. So I guess I took it being more what Dick Grayson was talking about in the beginning. There's a possibility of what you're talking about. I took it as being both Michael Lane, but that was interesting to see that you saw that as a possible option through the whole thing. I don't know.
Now, what do you think with the Father Grieve, being there?
Does that mean that he's nuts? Is he really talking to... Well, it says Grieve said in the beginning that he's haunting him. Yeah. That he's his burden to carry. So how long will he have to carry that burden? I really quite like the character following him around in the early parts. I'm like, this could get quite interesting. But what is that going to do to him along the way is something I'm intrigued by.
Because the suit does, and sometimes can drive you insane. Could this be one of the factors that, sends him over the edge? Because that is a little bit creepy, having this guy...
It's a whole lot of creepy.
Okay, I'll give you a whole lot of creepy. Guy was skinned alive.
I love you say that like it was up for debate. Well, sometimes having a dead... skinned guy hanging around with you is, it's a little okay.
I've had a couple nights where I've seen visions and stuff like that, so, it's you get kind of used to it. You get adjusted to it.
All right.
Nice work, Atom. What are these characters up to?
I just want to talk quickly about Jonah Hex number 63. I actually love that you're reading this now because it's one of those series. And this is a great example, another one done in one. Hex is in this town, and he takes on this bounty of going after this Loco character. And the whole idea behind this thing of this, boy being captured and that Hex isn't going to be able to get there in time to save the kid. And ends up catching up with the villain. But on the way, we see Hex having flashbacks to his childhood and how this murderer was killed, and Hex's dad saying that, we took out the guy's eyes. Well, why did you take his eyes? So we'd be the last thing he'd see before we go to hell. And I love how these elements that occur earlier in Hex stories play into his rationalizations later to resolutions of events. You get to know a little bit more about his upbringing to understand why he is the way he is and why he does certain things.
Yeah, any crime against the child always just gives you that visceral rage, and you want to see someone tortured and die a slow, painful death. And this whole thing pulled you right in from the beginning. It was a cool thing where it looked like it was going to be initial, kind of routine bounty. No, there's this other element. And then we start looking into Hex's past, and we see Hex as a little kid. His friend was murdered, and who knows what else that guy did to the kid before he killed him. And it's just that whole kind of that Western justice type of deal that nowadays you read in newspapers. And one of the things I like to do is online news stories. They always have a section for comments after. And I always like to read the comments after just because to see, one, you see what people are saying. Sometimes it goes, really not nice commentary towards, the person. Sometimes there's even been comments against the victims. You get every possible gambit. But whenever there's a child or like an elderly, the victim was an elderly person, you see these people just, they want blood. And it's your internet kind of blogger, so it's people can really just throw out their gut reaction without worrying about, hey, you see what John said about this? No, no one knows. That's Eerie Guy 236 or whatever. So you see these just rage and just this gut, just anger. And I love seeing that in this book. It's a natural human reaction, and someone even like Hex has those moments. He remembers what it was. He still gets his fire going, and he really dished out some justice. Oh my God.
Well, one of my favorite moments, though, and I love these kind of deliveries, I like sometimes when you don't know everything. You're left to use your own imagination on what happened. You got to use that sparingly, because sometimes you give me the full info. But in this case with the dad telling Jonah's dad what happened to his kid, when they've captured the killer, and you just see this stare on his face. Ginny, take Jonah on inside. I'm going to ride out with these men and lend a hand. So whatever he was told there at that moment has made him decide, I've got to go with them. And I'm going to be a part of what we're going to do to this guy.
Yeah, that was a slow, painful, beating death, and they tortured that guy before he died. There was no quick dead is dead. They made it last. It's one of those, oof.
Great choice not to show us any of it.
No.
Because to me, it's much more horrifying than in what you have seen. And that's something I really like because you got to use that sparingly, because sometimes you just need to see it. Yeah. But in this case, no, you don't. And it adds all the more later on when we see Hex in a situation again where a boy has been killed. And we haven't seen what happened to the body.
Yeah.
Hex saw it. He went in there. How long has this kid been dead? And he does the same thing. Shows up with the eyeballs back in town saying, here's my, here it is. And I like that he didn't take the bounty for this.
Yeah.
This was a personal affront. Yeah. It was something where he felt strong enough to say, hey, here you go. I like that moment because it went back into his history. He was remembering being in that situation before and how some things just aren't right to take money for.
He's not just a hired gun. He's just not just this killing machine. There is, he is a killing machine, but it's not just about the money. And that, for me, is what gives him that hero type of quality. And I really, especially like that earlier, like kind of middle of the issue where he's sitting at his campfire and he's making a fire and like, hey, you sure that's a smart move? But the whole time that was all part of the plan. He knew Loco was out there. He knew his quote unquote friend who was giving him the information would sell him out. And so it was all his trap for the bad guys. And I love seeing those type of stuff that Hex does that, where he's that one step ahead of the bad guys. It's all part of his master plan, and it's kind of a cool thing to see, and it's something that I'm really starting to get into on Hex. He is, when I got back into it, when I went back and I reread some stuff, some of the initial stuff, I liked just the dispensement of justice and his own personal code, but I'm really starting to dig these little nuances in his character, that he's not just this guns a-blazing. He's got some game plan. He's been around for a while. You don't survive in this lifestyle by just getting lucky or just by being the quickest gun. You gotta have the wits. You gotta have just the strategery, if you will, that, Hex has. And I really just, I felt like throwing it out there. I really...
Strategery, if you will.
Yes.
What if we won't?
Hey, then you ignore me and shake your head, go, Sensei, what are you doing now? Just let it go. But, no, it's that mindset. That's something that really, the more I'm reading the Hex, the more I'm getting behind this, the more I see that it's the nuances of the character that, I'm really getting into and I'm really enjoying, and I am so glad that I did pull this back into the read list.
Absolutely. It's one of those books that I've loved throughout. Hex is a guilty pleasure.
Yeah.
Because there's times where it can be very twisted, and it's clear that he's more of an anti-hero kind of character. But there's other times where, like in this book, you rooted for him the whole way. There's definite morality to the guy, and you can't help but enjoy him. I want to talk real quick about this Starman Congorilla one-shot that came out, because it really fills us in with where these two characters have been with everything that's going on with the Justice League. And James Robinson explained that he planned this all along as a way to showcase the team that was inside the bubble being with their opposite counterparts in the crime syndicate, and kind of showing how they would deal with them and what they'd be like together. But this explains, and it's kind of cool because it's our introduction to seeing the pencils of Brett Booth with inks by Norm Ratman, the art team that's going to be taking over the Justice League of America when Mark Bagley leaves, which is after next issue, I believe.
Yeah.
So they're taking over.
Yeah, I'm really happy with, just the general look of the issue. So going forward with, Justice League, I'm like, oh, okay, this is going to be nice. Because I'm really, these are characters, again, I little to no knowledge on them, so having this spotlight issue on them really kind of was a good thing for me as a reader. It's got me anticipating what's going to happen when they get back with the team, seeing these two dynamic kind of fitting in with the others, because in a way they are outsiders from the other heroes. Mm-hmm. And it's going to be curious to see how the others deal with them, how they deal with their team, and just the general kind of team dynamics that's going to happen. And before we get too far into it, we talked earlier about the covers. I just got to say how it's with the Gene Ha. He just does the ha with the exclamation point for his signature, and I always get a kick out of seeing that. And I always just have a little kind of chuckle whenever I see it, just for some reason. I like just the fun nature of it.
It's a good logo, and I like his take on characters in general. I've always loved his old sense of anatomy and then facial expression and everything that he does. Just a very, very cool visual. Yeah. It's actually speaking of Starman, my commission that I got from him was of Jack Knight's Starman, and it was great to have an opportunity to have that piece to add to my collection of artists who I've met who have gotten sketches from and things. It's one of the things. It's one of the drawbacks of being at the table at conventions. I haven't had the chance to really walk con floors early enough to get on sketch lists and commission lists for my favorite artists. It's something I really want to make it a point to do, like at C2E2, to try and seek out some artists and get early on some commission opportunities, because I really enjoy having those personal pieces. Do you get that done? Is that something that you like doing, or have you done that yet?
Well, I've gotten a couple. I got the one from Jamal, the Nightwing beating up Hawkman kind of deal, and I don't know, when I get stuff signed by, I've had a couple people do little quick sketches, in the hardcover books and things like that. I've never really been the get a sketchbook and have people do it kind of guy for some reason. Though every time I look at yours and I look at other people's books, I go, oh, that's neat. I wish I'd done that. And it's something that I think of when I get to the con floor. I don't think of it, beforehand. I don't plan it. I don't even own a sketchbook that I could take. And I think about it at the last minute.
That Freddie Williams Superman that I got in there, and then the Robin, and I mean, just all the way through. Mike Norton's done some cool. I mean, I've gotten ones that are like the quick sketches in there, which I really enjoy. I've gotten ones that are full commissions that I've gotten in there. I'm really enjoying that. My problem has been I've got to find a way to time manage that when working at the tables where I can do that, because I ended up, it usually turns out the last day of the convention is when I have a chance to really roam the floors. And in the bigger cons, the poor artists, by the time Sunday comes around, which is good news for them. But they've done so many commissions over the weekend and sketches and things. Their arms are ready to fall off. Yeah. So it's just not the time to ask. So I've really got to work that out again because I really enjoy that. And there was a lot of people at this past one in New York that when I found out who was in Artist Alley and stuff, I'm like, oh, come on. I should have had I known earlier what I knew then. But Gene Haas, just amazing art. This Brett Booth, I like how this story kicks off because one thing we need to know is what's been going on with, we knew Congorilla was searching for Starman. Well, he's dealing with the fact that, his love has died. And, how can he get himself back together to be an active member of the team? And this issue's really about him recognizing his role, his place in life, and what his overall goals are. And I think this is really, we see Starman now ready to come back to the League and be an active part of it by the end of it. Oh, which is really, because Congorilla's been there. Starman, it's like, okay, we need to get attached to him, what his status quo is right now, what kind of demons is he fighting from his past, and, how can he get to this point? And I think that's a lot of the main point of this issue. But what happens is, because of this dome that's gone over, Congo Bill's like, okay, we got to get in there. And he said, the only way I can do this is, we got to go to Malavar. And this gorilla is like, this is to me the smartest creature in the world. Yeah, you forget about your Lex Luthor, terrific. But I love that Starman asked the question that we all ask. How do we know this rating system? Like, where is this from? Like, who said that this person's the third most intelligent in the world? How do you, did they take some kind of test or something? Which is, I just thought, just a great dialogue piece in all this. I'm like, yeah, okay, you're asking, this is the questions as fans we should all be asking. A very geeky question, and I loved it.
Yeah, it's funny because you think about it, how do you really know? What is the thing? Is it by saying, when Mr. Terrific says he's the third smartest man, is he actually saying that he thinks he's the third smartest? Or is he really saying, is that his way of kind of being a sarcastic statement saying he's the smartest guy?
I don't know. But what do they have a think-off?
I don't know.
Yeah, and would you name yourself the third smartest man?
See, I'll tell you, if I thought I was the smartest guy, I wouldn't say I was the smartest guy. Because people would think you're being arrogant, or what does he know? I'd say, third smartest guy is a great line to say. I'm not the smartest guy, I'm the third smartest guy. And then he leaves everybody thinking, okay, who does he think are the first two smartest people? Who is smarter than him, kind of deal? Wherein you can have massive debates, and in reality, he's probably thinking in his head, no, I am the smartest person in the world, just, I'm above, your rational thought.
So are you saying that Mr. Terrific, then, is actually the smartest man in the DC Universe because of the fact that he has labeled himself third smartest?
Yes. Well, yeah.
In a weird way, that logic works
Makes
for me.
Sense, doesn't it? Scares you, doesn't
I'm laughing, but I'm laughing with you because I'm like, it kind of makes sense to me. Because why would you if you were the smartest? So the arrogant ones that are 1 and 2, realistically, are much lower on the scale because they weren't smart enough to realize they would look smarter by saying they were third smartest.
Bingo. Scares you when it makes sense, doesn't it?
No, it's really, here's the problem, is it's total nonsense that makes sense. So I don't know how good that is.
Well, I think that's a good fitting description of me.
Total nonsense that makes sense?
Yeah.
Jim Seguin.
Well, I think you just define what is the whatnot now.
No, wait, that should be our show slogan.
Total nonsense that makes sense.
Week after week, hour after hour.
Back to Starman and Congorilla.
Speaking of total nonsense that makes sense.
Exactly. Now, I liked the time flip, the flipping back and forth, going to past, 5 hours ago, now, 4 hours and 29 minutes ago, and just that kind of build to it. It's one of those story elements that I like seeing it. Occasionally, if it gets overdone, if it was every single time, that would annoy me. But
well, you used to not like seeing
I know.
this, and it's something where it's really a change in your reading preferences that you enjoy when this happens.
Yeah, because it's like a one-shot like this. A one-and-done is a great usage of it. If every single story was like that, that would get old. But it's like, I enjoyed seeing this. I especially like the fact that they really clearly labeled, because I could have gotten very confused. Even though I do enjoy this style, it still does somewhat confuse me when we jump back and forth in times. And this was very clearly laid out, and I enjoyed seeing the time slowly decrease between, as I said, 5 hours and 4 hours 29 minutes, 4 hours 20 minutes, 4 hours, and just that little breakdown as it slowly went down to all we had was now. And I thought that was a cool way to bring it out, a cool way to introduce and get the fight going. We have some fight moments, we have some character building moments on the same page, same half of the page, so you're getting a little bit of everything in each of the pages and each throughout the story.
Rex the Wonder Dog bit I was one of probably my favorite visual piece when they first introduced him. I'm like, that is a really good drawing of a dog. And I'm being totally honest with this. I'm not just saying that. I'm like, wow, what a great visual piece there. This dog looks like practically like he was ready to really jump off the page.
Yes.
And what I loved, it was this introduction to him in this like peaceful moment where, it's like, aw, and then you see him violently attacking a gorilla that's attacking them in the end. I'm like, yes, Rex, that's a dog that I want to see more of. But again, pulling from DC's rich history. Rex has a history in the DC universe. Talking about the fact that in some cases he can talk, other cases he can't. Why can't he now? They actually start explaining that in this story, and I love those elements where it's, can you really understand him? Can you not? Those are great bits. He's kind of like the Stewie of the DC universe.
Who actually understands him?
Does this mean we're more adult now because we can't understand? I don't know.
Well, I like the fact that when Rex barked, the Starman looked at Congorilla saying, "Hey, what did he say?" Like,
he said, so.
I don't speak dog.
He just said, so why are you looking at me? What did he say? Who do you take me for, Dr. Doolittle? I speak ape and human, not dog. Just such a great bit.
When Rex has his little bag, that he's carrying in his mouth, I love the fact that there's this little toothbrush sitting down there. Does he brush his own teeth, or does someone have to brush his teeth for him? Because there's a little toothbrush there. It looks like some toothpaste. Like, is he really that good that he can brush his own teeth? Or is someone going to have the wonderful job of going, okay, dog, hold still? Because you get doggy breath. That's not the best thing in the world.
But does he have doggy breath if he gets his teeth brushed regularly?
True. Okay, true. But I'm thinking just the inside of a dog mouth's gotta just, generate a really nice, nasty funk.
Well, that's because he doesn't brush. If you brush, what's your mouth like if you brush regularly?
Yeah.
How many times a day does Rex brush? Do we know?
No idea. And does he use Crest or Colgate?
That's a Colgate. Official sponsor.
So
well, at least was official sponsor. I don't know. I haven't seen Colgate ads in a little while.
Yeah.
But for right now, we'll say Colgate. Because probably DC gets a big discount on Colgate, I'm sure. So he's got a Colgate mouth, which we know keeps your breath fresh.
Yeah.
For those kissable moments.
Hey, whatever.
Well, that's what every one of those moments was, a kissing moment.
Yeah.
Duh. You went on a tirade about it. Let me don't remember your own tirades.
Always.
Flashbacks. I like seeing Animal Man in this.
Yeah.
Who would you logically go to when you need to be able to communicate with an animal you can't communicate with? Animal Man. So a great moment there. But I love the bits when he's out fighting in the...
Yeah.
Ellen is going to be so mad.
Well, and they did the same thing to Animal Man, with, hey, what did he say? I'm like, it's not like Dr. Doolittle,
Yeah.
It was just a constant reoccurring joke going through it. And again, it's little comedic moments that do not take away from the action, do not take away from the story, but it's just enjoyable.
But he did understand him.
Yeah.
Which was the funny part in the whole thing, because he went on a speech, I duplicate their abilities, but I don't have a sit-down heart-to-hearts with them. But then he goes, arf, and what did he say? He said, Helen.
Where's my gun?
It's just such a great comedic moment, but then that leads to this, again, serious battle bit. This is one of those great issues. I agree with you on the pacing of this. The jumping back and forth between time actually kept constant action flowing in these bits where we needed to see the backstory, like, how did they get hooked up with Animal Man? Why is Rex here? What's going on in this moment? And then we finally get to see them with Malavar. And the reasons why Malavar ends up we get the final big battle, and I liked seeing that Congorilla still can fight even though he's not able to supersize. Like, he tries to supersize up in those moments, but because of where they are in the woods, he can't.
Right. And, you think about it, he does have the body of a gorilla. Oh, that's a very powerful animal that, so I like, but again, they're up against other gorillas, so it's kind of like an even playing field, but you still have the training. You still have just the various nature of who, Bill is, and, it's kind of, you got these young bucks coming into, for his territory. No, you got, the experienced veteran who knows how to throw down, who knows how to fight. So it's that whole argument of, what do you go with? Do you go with the youth and strength, or do you go with the experience and wisdom kind of deal? And it was a cool just moment seeing them fight, and just I like this. And this was something that it's kind of missing from the Wonder Woman stuff, because I love the talking gorillas in there.
Oh yeah.
And even like with the chimp from Shadow Pack. The fact that
Detective Chimp.
Yeah, Detective Chimp from Shadow Pack. The fact that people look at, cute little... No, he's a chimpanzee. They're very strong. They're a walking, muscle kind of deal. Those are very powerful animals. Any of the ape, gorilla, whatever the proper family is that is a simian type deals, these naturally are powerful creatures. So you add an intelligence factor to it, that kicks it up to a whole nother level. And I like seeing that get played out.
It was funny, as this storyline closed out, we got to see the return of Tasmanian Devil during this whole bit. I was glad to see this reference to Gorilla City, though. Because one of the things that I always loved in the DC Universe was Gorilla City. I had a Batman book and record set that took place in Gorilla City. It was Batman versus Grodd, and he had this bit where Batman slowed his heart down. It was a giant, oversized book and record set. I still have it. Batman went up against Grodd, and Grodd had beaten him down to the point where the only way... It looked like Batman was killed, but Bruce stopped his heart.
Yeah.
To really kind of, at that moment, convince Grodd. And it was also he could be in a position where he could turn off this device that Grodd was using. So then he could then take advantage of the situation. And I loved that bit. This is back in the 70s. I'm like, this is great storytelling. So that's how long my relationship is with Gorilla City. And bringing these characters back in and showing how intelligent they are and strong and great combatants was something that, to me, it goes right back to my childhood. And what's cool about the DC Universe is that you can have just all these different wacky elements and make them work. But you would go to these intelligent beings to bring them in to now go and try to save the teammates. Let's bring, and they, I love the, well, what Rex is going to, I wonder if Rex is going to be in the issue of JLA.
I hope so. I really do hope we keep Rex in there. And it was funny because when they introduced Tasmanian Devil, I actually thought he was going to continue on with him. I was a little bit shocked that he didn't stay and go, even though he offered, like, hey, I'll help you guys out. You guys did me a solid here. I'm not going to, abandon you. And like, no, you've been away from your family too long. And I thought that was just, again, a cool kind of hero moment on their part. They could have very easily said, yeah, we could use more firepower. We could use more firefight. They're like, no, this guy's been through enough. He needs the time. Go to your family. Let them know you're alive kind of deal. That was, again, a very human moment. It was
Animal Man who said that because of his attachment to family. So he's really showing, no, you got to understand. I understand you're willing to come with us, and that's very cool. Thanks a lot for that, man. But I understand the importance of family. You need to get there.
Yeah.
That was a cool bit, and I liked that it was Buddy that was the one that said, go for the family. That was a great use of him in this book. Great visual piece. We didn't talk about, in the back of these things, did you read the...
Oh, yeah.
Because the game comes with the DC Universe Online Legends sneak preview, which is a sneak preview of the book starting in February. Now, the game comes with the Zero issue to this that takes place before this series, and then it also comes with if you get the collector's edition. I don't know I think the collector's edition is the only one that comes with. There's a full-size comic adaptation of the cinema film that takes place before the game. So it's great to see the series. Did you pre-order the series then?
Yeah, I'm definitely getting the series, and I'm curious to see where it goes through, because I like that. I like the extra comic outside of the the game and all that, and
especially showing the future world.
Yeah. Hopefully this weekend I'll get my game system and I'll be online and I'll be playing. So, are you
going to try to get the collector's edition, or what are you going to do?
Yeah, I'm going to try to get it.
Because the statue?
Yeah, I'm looking at that statue going, that's really cool.
Yeah, it was cool. The collector's edition of the game came with the Batman statue, which is a Jim Lee Batman statue. It also comes with an art book, a behind-the-scenes art book, where it's Jim Lee and the Wildstorm artists and the creators, obviously, of the game, the art team in the game, who, each character and how they were crafted and the little background of, the character crafting and stuff like that. It's a comic book size, like prestige format comic book size, kind of backstory to the game. There's a small ash can size 0 issue to DC Universe Legends, the series, the bi-weekly series. And then there is a full-size adaptation, like I said, of the cinema screen. It was cool. It was a very, very cool thing. And then inside there you got the Bat Drone. You got a code for the Bat Drone. And then there's a Joker version, the Joker, like a Joker drone. It's not called that. It's a Joker joke something. I haven't created a villain to use it yet. I've been creating heroes. But I got the Bat Drone, and it's very cool. It actually flies alongside you and helps you during combat.
Oh, cool.
So you can actually see it, like flying, hovering there. You can call on it. It's one of those things where you hit the R2 button and then the other button, and like all of a sudden it'll appear up, and from your inventory you got a remote control for it, and the thing it's a drone. It attacks it's great because during certain battles, like if you're fighting like 3 or 4 people, the drone will actually distract somebody else, and it'll up your odds.
Nice.
While that thing's fighting the drone, you can. So there was actually 2 fights that I can think of where because the drone was there, I lived. So the game's great. I got to play this week. I created 2 characters that I started working with. I created a character on each server just to create them. But then I've got 2 characters I got going. One I got to level 8, it only came out a couple days ago. And, preparing for the show, I didn't have a whole lot of time. But this is the problem. I had trouble putting it down because I started doing things that I didn't do in the beta, like running races. Each city has like different races and different challenges and things that you can do. So like if you're a speedster, you can run a speedster race. If you're a character with flight, and there's different trials on it. So like you run through this speed course in the city, and you can earn different kinds of,
cool.
It's different like speed trophies, time trial trophies. All the way up, it's bronze, silver, gold, and platinum.
Oh, nice.
Based on how fast you do it. So there's actually an incentive to go back and do it again to try and beat your score. It's really cool. Kind of a nice little diversion. There's all kinds of little side missions along the way, like you can help detectives and stuff like that. I'm fighting in Gotham right now. But here's the thing that I've found out. I'm in Gotham, but now I'm getting opportunities to get missions from like Flash in this city. I can go to Metropolis. I can go to other cities to help Zatanna. So I have the option to take my character and leave for the other city if I want to. I haven't done that yet because I kind of want to follow the whole Batman mission through, and I wonder what happens then afterwards. But I like that I can go to other cities if I want to now, which I didn't experience in the beta.
Nice.
So that's kind of a cool, and then I can actually follow. So I can change my path if I want, I guess. It's a lot of fun.
I really want to get this. I really need to get this. I need to, get off my lazy butt and buy a system and then get the game and, start rocking this because, every time you talk about it, I just like, oh, damn, why don't I have it? I'm an idiot. And I kind of kick myself because it does sound really neat experience.
My experiences with the game have all been positive. There's been a very rare hang-up when I played the game where, like the game will freeze and I had to, boot out, which is normal in an early part of an MMO, where they're putting it out because there's so many different things going on in it. But the only other experience that quote-unquote was bad, the ending battle, where it was the beta test, the end of the beta test, where you could go up against Jim Lee as the Joker. I actually got to be a part of that fight. Then my computer froze. My PlayStation froze from... I think it was, they do like a stress test with that where they've got like 10 gazillion people on it. And I think it was just because of the sheer number of people on there, it just froze. And it was, at that point in time, it was midnight. I had to work the next day. I would have gone right back in though. I was having a lot of fun in the battle. He was the future Joker from that opening cinema screen. The one that, said, that man's mine to kill and all that. You got to actually see, and Mark Hamill's voice was playing during the whole thing. It's a lot of fun. He was in God mode. So you could start wailing on him. And I don't know if people actually won. I didn't get to that point in the battle. I got to fight him for, I don't know what percentage of it would be. We got to see some damage, but then he could run away and heal himself. And it was like pretty crazy.
Yeah.
So it was kind of a fun little closing event. It kept crashing early on, but a lot of that's, that's a beta. That was a beta, and that's something that people have to remember when they read all that on it. But I have had nothing but good experiences in the beta. So far, since I bought the actual retail copy and I've been playing it, my experiences are just like what I was going through early on in the beta, except with more options. I've got my character. I'm going in. I've had no trouble logging in. I've gotten in every time. The only time I had any problem, there was one server that said it had a high load, and I had to wait for like a 3 count or something like that. I was in third in line. That was a high count server. So I can't speak to the PC end of it, because I don't have it on my PC. I have it on my PlayStation 3. But so far, my experiences have been very, very good with the game. I'm having a lot of fun. One thing I did notice in the regular retail version is there's more cinematics. More comic book cinematics in the lead-in. It was fun to play through the Brainiac mission again and see kind of a little bit more of a Brainiac lead-in and a little bit more of an outro that leads you into the city, which I didn't have that in the first time around. So it was something new this time, and it was fun. I made a character who I call him Shadowwing, and which I've had a Shadowwing since back when the City of Heroes beta was around, so I love the character name and all that, but it's obviously a Batman-themed character. But I went with the bow and arrow on this guy. What I did was I made a different one on every server, and then I did different weapons on each one. I'm kind of regretting that now, because I've been using the bow and arrow on this one that I'm playing, and it's the one I'm going to stick with for right now. When there's an opportunity to respec, they're going to all have the bow and arrow.
Yeah.
It's really cool, because you're firing off these fast bow and arrows, and then along the way, as you build up your levels, you get trick arrows and all kinds of trick shots and things like that. The gadgets are cool, because he's a gadget, like a Batman-style gadget character. There's a stealth gadget, and then there's a smoke gadget where you can, in combat, you can throw down this smoke screen, and it makes it hard for them to see you, so it gives you a kind of a combat advantage. There's this electrical whip that you can kind of whip out that incapacitates them. It does damage if it doesn't incapacitate. When it incapacitates, it wraps around them and it pulls them close to you, and you can start wailing on them for a few minutes without them being able to attack you. It's a really good. Yeah. The cool part with the arrows, though, there's actually a strategy to this. When you're fighting heavier, stronger enemies, you're better off staying a distance away and wailing on them with arrows, because their big attacks that they build up, you're able to dodge easier from the distance. So there is a strategy element to that. Whereas there's some of the fighting styles are slower but more powerful. So if I went to I haven't done any of those yet. I kind of like playing because I've got him as a speedster. So it's kind of fun having this speedster who has high-speed arrows flying out. It's not because he's a speedster. It just happens that the arrow happens to be one of the quick weapons.
Cool.
But it, visually makes sense that this guy's running around at super speeds and stuff. I like the speedster element, though.
Nice.
Because you can run up and down walls like you'd expect with the Flash and stuff like that. The cool part about all the travel powers is you can get anywhere with any of the travel powers. So, if you've got flight, obviously you can fly up and down anywhere you want to go. But with the other, with the acrobatics, you can climb to the top of the buildings. With super speed, you can run to the top of the buildings. So visually, you can get to anywhere. I logged off one of my games in the Gotham City Lighthouse, all the way up at the top. And it's fun in City of Heroes to see that kind of stuff. The great part about going up to the lighthouse area is you can kind of look over the city. You see things like the Gotham Gazette, and you see this cape, and you get to see Crime Alley and all the different spots that you want to see. I like running around Gotham. I'm a big fan of running around Gotham and finding new things. Along the way, there's these little exclamation points that you find, and they're little tidbits about the city. They're little collections that you can pick up. You pick up gang patches and stuff like that. And I don't know what happens. I haven't collected all of them for any of them yet. I don't know what happens when you collect them all. But there are achievements and accolades that you collect along the way, and they can lead to experience, which starts to level up your character more. I know there's a max of 30 levels right now. And on the PlayStation, your trophies, you max out in different avenues. Do you max out your character as a under Batman's leadership? Do you max out under Wonder Woman's leadership? That type of thing. And I kind of like that element of it all. There's an incentive to go back and play again if you want to get the trophies. Yeah. So it was fun. But it's a cool game so far. I'm really digging the stories. And the great part is, people wonder why there's a monthly fee. There's going to be more stories and content added along the way. They already added new servers because they noticed the server load was getting high, which might be one of our, I think it was Ken, and I apologize because I'm doing this off the top of my head. Ken, one of our listeners, messaged me on Facebook and said that on the PC end, he was having trouble getting in. So I don't know what the issue was exactly, but it was interesting to hear that because I wasn't having that experience at all. And I'm not saying that was a general PC issue. He was saying he's having it, though, so it's obviously he's not going to just say that. He was having a valid problem. So growing pains are part of MMO when they first come out, as far as, just kind of developing server balance and all that stuff. It's part of being an early adopter. Part of the fun with the early end of it is seeing how they change and
seeing where it grows and the evolution. Yeah.
But so far I've had no issues. It's been fun. So you're thinking of getting one this weekend?
Yeah, I got it. I got to this weekend because I'm chomping it.
You got to let me know because we got a 3-day weekend. You don't work on Monday, do you?
Yes, I do not work on Monday.
Yeah, so we'll have to, if you get it this weekend, we'll have to duke up and play.
Yeah.
We'll decide what server we're going to play our guys on. Then we'll go from there. We can make our own league. You can make a league.
You can make a league?
Yeah, well, yeah.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, there was a whole bunch of people running around in groups, which, I was I was definitely the Bat-style character. It wasn't on purpose. A lot of it is I'm waiting for you. We got other friends on there that, are good. Myron Rumsey's on there and stuff like that. So I guess I'm kind of waiting to see and contact those people as far as, like, where are you guys going to be? What server are you going to be on? We should probably, when you get on, we should decide that and announce on our forums, like, this is going to be the server that Raging Bullets is going to play on. And we'll kind of go from there. Because that would be fun.
Yes.
Yeah. Jim, I want to talk about Brightest Day number 17. It was funny. I've got to say one thing about this last week's books. There's, like, books I still want to talk about that we're probably not going to get to this episode, but I want to talk about down the road. Batman Beyond number 1 I thought was excellent. Freedom Fighters. I mean, there's so many books that came out this past week. It was just a really terrific week. But what won me out for Brightest Day was Boston Brand and his dad.
Oh, my God. That was just... Well, not his dad, his grandpa.
Or his grandpa, I'm sorry.
Yeah, his grandpa. Yeah, just actually...
The motorcycle rider,
Yes. Yeah.
But Boston in general, we were talking about... it was something... Were you the one that said that you thought that he and Dawn Granger were going to hook up or something like that? Because I think I was more convinced that she was going to hook up with Hawk along the way. We had that discussion earlier on with the relationship. I was really glad to see how that went between Dawn and... Because I didn't see... I guess I saw them developing a friendship. I didn't see it getting romantic.
I'll take credit, but I don't think it was me. I think it was...
Maybe Myron?
I think it was Myron.
Okay.
I think Myron was the one who first saw it, and then I was like, yeah, okay.
It wasn't me, I know that. Yeah. So it was either you or Myron.
I'm going to say Myron.
Okay.
I'm going to give him full credit on this one, because I don't think I came up with that idea.
Okay.
So, good call.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, it was interesting to see what was going on with Firestorm, and we can go back to what was going on with Boston Brand, but Firestorm ends up going to the antimatter universe of Quord and trying to find the central location where this white battery is going.
That's where the light battery is, and it's. Right. I like the fact that it's whatever is the white, because Boston Brand has not found the champion yet, so it's up to Firestorm to protect the battery. And again, it's these two have to work together, and we're seeing them start to get the groove going on. We're seeing them understand it. It's. I like the fact that they're
Where
able
is
to work
his
together.
ring? The Flashpoint thing. Does that play into this? Do we see the White Lantern not have his ring for Flashpoint? We're assuming it's Hal. What if it's not Hal? What if it's the whoever is going to be the
I don't know.
I'm just throwing out different possibilities. Talking about Flashpoint earlier on in the episode.
I didn't even think of...
What if it ties to this instead? I guess I'm still assuming Hal, but what if...
You know what? That's actually a very good... Because they like to do those little swerves and those little tricks with those teasers. Because as soon as you mention Ring, first thought that popped in all of our heads was Hal.
Well, because all those other ones seem to be referenced to classic heroes.
Right.
Bruce, I'm assuming Martian Manhunter or Aquaman, but does it have to be from the past?
Maybe it's not. Maybe it is the future, the present, and to be honest,
a combination.
Yeah,
because it's who knows what time. So that's interesting to kind of take a look at that. But I love this element. I like seeing Ronnie more alert and bringing in his history with the DC universe in these moments where he's talking about the things that he knows. And Ronnie and Jason are getting along better now. I'm really engaged with these two.
Yeah, I like seeing these two as Firestorm. I think they make a pretty good mix of the Matrix, and I'm kind of curious to see when one's in the driver's seat, the other one's not, and they flip-flop and switch things around depending on the situation. This is a good time for Ronnie because he's dealt with these shadow demons. He knows what to do, so he takes the driver's seat. Who knows, maybe later on Jason's going to be in the driver's seat, and it's a cool notion of Firestorm kind of changing around who's in command, who's driving. And
I completely forgot about the Anti-Monitor.
Yeah.
When that came up, I'm like, duh. Like, why would I have remembered that? That was cool. But seeing Boston Brand finally, start to live life, and with Dawn kind of taking a step forward in their relationship, and then taking the steps back, and I know I'm kind of jumping around with this, to then hook up with his grandfather, and finally, after all this time, let him know that he's alive. And what's it like to meet up with him? And then the grandfather realizing that it's him and him saying, you know what? Let's take one more ride together. Let's go out there. Why do you have to stay here? Let's do this thing.
Yeah.
And seeing the granddad, like, full of life again, the way that Boston is. The path that Boston's starting to head down, because he's not quite there yet. But this moment, again, pushing in the right direction, charging the ring up. And I like that the ending of the issue was charging it up for what? But I liked seeing that because he's doing this, there is a charging of the ring.
Because he's living. Because he's actually pursuing life and not, avoiding death, not dodging death, not, being stuck and caught in the darkness. He's actually going after the light. He's going after, just that, the energy that is that. And that's what I think is what charged the ring. That's what kind of kicked it up a notch. It wasn't just driving. They were flying a little bit. They were moving, by the power of the white ring. And I thought that was a cool moment because, there was so many stuff with dealing with the grandpa. Because, it's tugging at the heartstrings kind of deal. You see this guy in, this daredevil, this adventurer. His grandfather was a guy who lived life.
Well, very similar to Boston, though, because Boston was a daredevil as well, but didn't, meet the perfect woman, didn't head down the same path. Where this guy's like, hey, you've got this opportunity now, and don't miss out on this. I'm very curious to see where Boston Brand's going to go from here. Is he going to go back to being Deadman? Is he going to stay alive? I don't know. He's still my number one candidate for the White Lantern, but yet I'm almost feeling like that's too obvious.
See, I'm now liking him for the candidate of the White Lantern. Mm-hmm. This issue right here really showed me that maybe he could be the White Lantern, because I was kind of like, I didn't know if it was going to happen, because I was like, it seemed like it was, too obvious that it would be Deadman becoming a live man, becoming the White Lantern, who knows, I'm like, but I wouldn't mind seeing that. I wouldn't mind seeing Boston go down this way, and it was cool seeing him. We talked a little bit about him and Dawn just interacting. She's kind of, coming out of her shell a little bit, because some of the stuff we've seen, she's been a little bit more reserved, a little bit holding back, because she's dealing with Hank and just keeping him in check kind of deal. We're seeing her pursue kind of a life as well, and I thought that was a kind of a cool moment where they're both living, they're both enjoying the pleasures that is life.
Here's the question. This is almost like the calm before the storm, because remember, we've got Waiting for Dawn that we have not seen yet. Captain Boomerang throwing the boomerang, and Hawk stepping in the way of it.
Yeah.
Or not making it in time. I'm assuming he's going to step in the way of it. What will Hawk's doing that do to Dawn? Will that change their relationship? Will that change her view of him? Will it make her realize things about him? I don't know. And I could be...
Yeah, that could change.
That's a possible speculation that I have down the road. I'm very curious to see how this is going to go. And we know that that's coming. What does that mean? This is a brilliant setup, because I'm rooting for these two as a couple now, yet there's that part of me that's like, Hawk knows he's got to do this. He didn't tell her,
right? But
we know he would do it in an instant. So that's that interesting triangle going on right there. What a great bit that is, because I had to. I'm like, I did my third read through, and I'm like, wait a minute, I'm forgetting all about Hawk and the boomerang and all this. What's coming? Very cool.
And will that? It's again, it gets, because I'm loving these two together, but it's what about Hawk? It's gonna change everything around. As we're talking, I'm just sitting here going, because I completely, again, I was with you. I was focused on the now. I forgot about just this, story coming down the line. And speaking of stories coming down the line, Hawks.
And I was saving it for last on purpose, because I could see myself going on this massive tirade and then never getting back to the other things. We left that cliffhanger where they were really chained up and it looked like bad news for them. I was glad to see so quickly that Carol Ferris was jumping in to save them, but I loved that immediately the Hawks acknowledged, because I forgot about that. They would have a relationship with her, because back in the day, the JLA, those people were going out and hanging out together. Yeah. They had those friendships. So when Hal was with Carol, so were the Hawks, and they got to know each other. So I loved seeing that kind of relationship. It was interesting to see that the avatar of the entity of love is recognized, that Shaira and Khufu are coming back to him, or at least, looking for that one person to latch onto. I didn't see where this was going to go, with it being the mother of Hawkgirl who wound up being the host. That
really threw me, because she's just so devoid of love, and she needed the love in her. I'm like, wow, how much control does the mother have over the entity? How much of it changing? Is there going to be, did they really just step into a big time problem here? Or is this going to be one of those things where the entity kind of calms her down? Because looking at that sequence, it doesn't look like anything's getting calmed. It looks like this is now going to really get nasty. Because her, just the cool fight sequences before that, where Hawkwoman and mother-daughter kind of moment kind of gone bad.
Well, here's the funny thing: its job is to bring love to life, and we've seen with the Star Sapphires that its love is not always a good thing. Its love can corrupt. Its love can, really
love can be lethal.
Well, Star Sapphire used to be a Green Lantern villain.
Yeah.
So what does this all mean at this moment? I'm very curious to see how this is all going to play out. I loved seeing the Hawks in this moment. There was moments where we got to see Hawkman flying out with 2 maces. I mean, this double-page spread, where they're going out there fighting. And the cool part was, I don't know if you noticed this as the battle was going on, their eyes started filling with the power of love.
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
Which I thought was a very cool visual all the way through. I did like seeing Hawkgirl versus her mom. I mean, that was really awesome to see that particular moment. It's a great, great story. I'm really digging Brightest Day. We're 17 issues in it. Is this 24 or 26 issues? 26?
I believe 26 issues.
Well, it was the way that they did this? 26 would make sense to have one for every week. That would add up to 52 if you put it with Generation Lost. I'm going to be sad to see this one end.
Yeah, I want to see where this goes. This is the weekly comic that's really got me pulled in. I'm really enjoying the story, and it is a double dose of the 2 stories. I want to see the merging, or if the merging is even going to happen.
Of what, Generation Lost and this?
And this. See if there's a connection.
Does it need to?
It doesn't need to at all for me. I'm happy with the story I'm getting, but I wonder if it's going to.
Well, I think thematically there's going to be a convergence in the sense that I think whatever's going on in Generation Lost, the end game, and whatever ends with this are all going to tie together. But I don't think we're going to see where this series leads into that and back again. I think the end game of both of these is going to set up wherever things are going. So I think. I don't know. I might be wrong. We'll see. I wonder if these do these tie into Green Lantern? Do they tie into Flashpoint? Where do they go from here? Or is it just do they tie into the DC universe? I'm very curious to see where this all goes, because I could be dead wrong on the whole ring bit. That might not tie into Flashpoint. That might be Hal's ring. It might be whatever's happening on Barry's end. So I don't know. That's why I'm saying it's speculation at the moment, because there's a strong part of me that's thinking Hal again for that Flashpoint thing.
Hey, question for you.
Sure.
What if there's another ring, Barry's ring, that he always kept his costume in? What if that's the ring you're talking about?
It seems to me like the Flash is going to go back through history and try to be the one to resolve all this.
Yeah.
Because I don't really associate Barry with getting a ring.
Yeah,
I associate, why didn't the chemicals drop on him or something like that. I guess I'm thinking there's going to be more teasers, and maybe there will be a Flash teaser in there somewhere out of them. I don't know. And maybe the final one would be the Barry one.
But here, let me ask you a question. Would you have an issue with, or rather see with the Hawks stay associated with the Star Sapphire kind of deal? Because as you said, how you saw them kind of getting charged up. Could that possibly, down the line, have them have that continual connection with the love entity, with the Star Sapphires?
I shouldn't say. I said it really fast. I don't know that I want to see that all the time with them. I wouldn't mind the association the same way we get an association between Diana and the Star Sapphires. How that happened at that point in time. I'd kind of like to see it more like that. I do like the fact that their bones were originally, they were the original couple that were the hosts. I don't know. I guess I don't want to see that be their main thing. I wouldn't mind if there was an association where there was a reason to show them in outer space and show them there and being a part of it to a certain extent, but I don't want that to be their main thing.
Or if next time they're around Carol,
Although I'm saying that, and I really loved this issue seeing them with them. So, I don't know. I don't want to see them, though, a regular, Star Sapphire.
Yeah.
If that's what you mean. I don't want to see them, I don't mind there being a casual association, but I would like it to be more, trying to think of a good example of it. And I can't really think of one at the moment. It's kind of like when Barry put on the blue ring.
Right.
I want that kind of association.
Okay, yeah, just a little. What we're getting right now
that tends to be their prevalent. Like Barry's was a natural for hope.
Yeah.
You have the ability to instill great hope, and he took a ring on. I don't mind if they have that kind of association, but I want it to be that level. Actually, the Barry comparison's perfect. That's I'd like it more on the hope end what it was for Barry.
Cool.
I don't want to see the Hawkman in the pink regularly.
Well, I did notice he didn't go all pink. He just had the pink eye, eyeliner.
And he worked that well. It worked all right. He still looked
real
just as
men wear
intimidating.
pink.
Yeah, but he doesn't need to. He's still a real man. He doesn't need to wear it. Well, he wore pink on the eyes, and that's good enough. Great story, though.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question. Where do you want to see all this go? Do you want to see it lead into the next event? Do you want to see their conclusion at the end? Where do you? I mean, I guess I don't see this possibly being able to tie up at the end completely. I'm assuming that there is going to be an ending to all this, and I think the ending is going to be we're going to finally get our White Lantern. But
I do want to see some conclusions. I do want to see, with the Max Lord whole story, kind of. I don't want that to be up in the open where he's still an unknown. I want everybody to remember Max, whether they stop him, whether they lock him up, whether they kill him again or whatnot. I don't know. I do definitely want a solid ending there. With the JLI, the Generation Lost, I would like to see that unit stick together, and I would like to see the return of the JLI and kind of that kind of deal go through. With Boston, again, I want to see him continue on his life. I don't want to see him go to deadbed.
Now, you say with the return of the JLI, do you want that to go to...
formal team.
As a series? Or just...
I would love to see that as a series. And have the people that are currently there say... This is us. We're not the Justice League of America. We're we are who we are kind of deal. And I think that would be a cool kind of continuation of the story. But I'm gonna flat out 100% say I would like to see that as a monthly. Bring in that JLI. Create that team that we have right now. Let them continue to run together. And, we're seeing stuff that, comes over from Booster, kind of, tying in, maybe a continuation, that kind of loose tie-in like that, a loose tie-in to the Power Girl stories kind of deal.
Well, if they're going to go to a JLI again, Power Girl, I think, I wouldn't do it as much of a tie-in to Power Girl because she's really JSA, leader of the JSA. So I don't want to see her doing double duty with JLI and JSA.
Okay, I can...
other than, and that's not knocking her association where it is right now, because I agree with you that I like her association where it is right now. So, which I know that's where you're getting this from. But I happen to like her so much as the leader of the JSA and All-Stars that's got to stand for me. I don't want to see her leave JSA All-Stars to become like a member or leader of JLI.
Yeah.
I don't want to see that.
Okay. And you know what? That's even an argument I wouldn't even make. I'm like, okay, cool. Yeah, I agree with you. Everything you're saying, I agree 100%. So, she could either have some vague connection or come in and out.
The Booster connection, though, if they did do a book like that, I agree with you that I'd like to see kind of the way the Booster acknowledges it, where Booster's still its own book, but periodically you see an acknowledgement. This is where it happened. Yeah. Let's go on.
Kind of deal. Yeah.
And I really I chuckle at those. I'm like, we all complain that we never get those, and they kind of do it. And it almost seems like they're having a little fun doing it. Yeah. So I'm into that. So that's kind of cool for me. So I don't know. I'm with you that I'd like to see it as a series. Here's the problem. There comes a point in time where
too many.
How many team books can you how many more team books can you launch? I would pick it up in an instant. I'm with you, and I'm not against it. I'm going to be curious to see where these characters go. I do think that's why I'd kind of like to see another weekly kicked off at some point. Obviously, there's going to be wherever this is going to go, and I'm assuming it's going to lead into some kind of event of some sort. But after that, I'd almost like to see another 2 weeklies like they did here, bi-weeklies.
Yeah.
The bi-weekly format seems to work really well, where you've got two different things going on.
Yeah, definitely, and it's not so many issues that you're spreading out. So.
Here's the funny part. Yeah. Every time they do one of these, we say, I'd like to see more of this. But then they do something different, and we're like, I'd like to see more of this.
Yeah.
It really, and I'm glad that the story is driving their decision on, the stories or story is driving their decisions on how they're releasing weeklies, how they're publishing them. Look, we got a Wednesday's Comics and something like that, which is funny. We were saying of that one. Let's see another Wednesday's Comics. Mix it up. Let the stories drive the whole thing. I'd like to see, I'm hoping we get to see another Wednesday's Comics.
Yeah.
Because, so I mean, these weeklies have been really, I love these kind of deliveries. So, okay, yay.
We are crystal men from Mercury. We have no quarrel with you.
Jim, we need to remind everyone about our Sensei Super Snuggie caption contest. Yeah. You got for Christmas a Superman Snuggie from your
sister. Thank you very much, Mary.
Yeah. And we got 3 great pictures of it up there. So I thought, let's do a contest to kick off the year. And we've gotten tons of captions from it.
Nice.
I was going to post them right now, but I'm trying to see if maybe I might do a separate page for the captions because there's so many of them. I'm trying to figure out how I want to format it. So I want to thank all the people that have participated so far. Please keep sending them in. You're going to send them to ragingbullets@gmail.com. There's contest details up on the website, so please enter. Grand prize winner is going to get an InStockTrades.com trade of their choice. That's on me. I'm buying that for the contest. I'm the one that's putting you through this. I'll take the hit on the trade. But also, the listener who wins that can join us on the show for 2 segments with 2 single issues of their choice. We haven't done that before. We've done trades all the time, and I think it's kind of fun to talk about 2 different topics with our listener friend. Then we'll rotate that. Maybe we'll do a trade next time we do it. Then the first runner-up is going to get to pick from our comic grab bag, which is generously donated by listeners who were kind enough to send them into the show. And also, I've pulled some stuff from my own collection to give them. It's a combination of, we have trades that are in there, we have issues that make up full story arcs and things like that, different collections. So I want to thank all the listeners that have donated that in the past. That's really nice to have those contest prizes and stuff, so I really want to appreciate that. And that'll still be the first and second runner-up will get that. And so definitely consider participating in the Sensei Super Snuggie Caption Contest.
Dun, 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 dun,
I'm amazed at so thank you for everybody. If your entries aren't up on the website, the reason why is I'm trying to, and I'll probably do it over the long weekend, come up with a way on how I want to format this now, because I didn't expect the response that we're getting.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing these things because I haven't seen them yet. So
you haven't seen the ones that have already been posted, even?
Yeah, I kind of been avoiding it intentionally. I want to wait and kind of
see everything.
Yeah, see
and
everything.
Kind of bask in it?
Yeah, well, I don't want to a lot of times I'll latch onto some of the earlier stuff. I want to give everyone a nice even shake. And
that's a good way to do it.
Even kind of keel and not have have it like if I'm reading current ones, I'll be automatically comparing to the previous stuff. So I'm just kind of hanging back and waiting on this one.
Yeah, I've been very impressed with the creativity of everyone who's said them. I've chuckled at everything.
Yeah.
So it's been, for everyone who's entered, thank you. On a personal note, thank you. And a lot of the people that have entered just said kind words and things like that, so I really want to tell people how much I appreciate that. Because there's been days, I'll literally, like on my lunch break from work, I'll check my email and I'll see another listing of caption contests from people. I'm like, oh, jeez. That's funny. So this is a contest that took off in a way that I didn't expect. Jim, I also want to remind everyone about our show voicemail line. It's 1-440-388-4434 or drnorge on Skype. We love having you a part of the show, so if there's anything we comment on that you want to comment on yourself, or even things that you're like, geez, guys, I wish you had a chance to talk about that. We literally, at the end of this recording, because we're getting ready for an interview, I was like, well, I'd like to talk about this, I'd like to talk about that. We're just out of time. So there's tons of things and tons of great books that are released every week, so if there's something we missed that you're like, guys, this just came out, let's talk about it, please call into the show. We'd love to have those thoughts on our podcast. Once again, our sponsors for this episode are DCBService.com and InStockTrades.com. Don't forget Doom Patrol number 20. You can pick it up. It's regularly $2.99, 40% off, only $1.79 at DCBService.com, your comic book pre-order source. And over at InStockTrades.com, don't forget to check out Doom Patrol We Who Are About to Die, collecting the first 6 issues of the series, regularly $14.99, 38% off, only $9.29. And I want to thank DCBService.com for continuing to support us. The C2E2 convention is March 18th through the 20th, and we're going to have representation there all 3 days. That's going to be our 5th anniversary of the show. So after 5 years, we'd love to meet you. So if you're going to be at the C2E2 convention or considering it, the guest list is changing all the time at c2e2.com. They're adding people constantly. Last year's was absolutely fantastic. We're a big fan of the Reed conventions. So if you're going to be there, let us know, and we would love to meet you. Jim, our next episode is going to feature 2 interviews with current artist of Secret Six, Jim Calafiore, That's one of the things first things I'm going to ask him is, how do we pronounce your last name? Because I know I've probably butchered it on multiple shows, so I want to ask him that. But we have a chance to have him on the show for the first time. We met him at the New York Comic Con. He was kind enough to say, hey guys, I'll come on and do the show. So we've got him on, and we've also got an interview with a longtime friend of the show, Freddie E. Williams II. We're going to talk about JSA All-Stars. So I'm very excited for the next show. And
yes.
So we will see you next week.
Bye.
Flying through space and time, 1,000 different lifetimes. Faded for love and flaws and incredibly clear sightlines. Swinging your mace around, such a practical outlook. Helping the JSA and occasionally supporting your own book. Hawkman, Hawkman, eagle eyes can't see. Hawkman, your plan and what you do to me. Hawkman. The villains are closing in, be they Thanon Guard or Egyptian. Working so hard to thwart you and Hawkgirl's mission. The odds are not on your side, and danger seems to stack up. Things would be so much easier if you would just call for backup. Hawkman, Hawkman, eagle eyes can't see your plan and what you do to me. Hawkman, Hawkman, eagle eyes can't see. Hawkman, your plan and what you do to me. Hawkman, talking about Hawkman.